a sudden, this bright light appeared in front of me in the shape of a man. I don't know how long I was there for, but I didn't want to move because I didn't want it to go. But then the arms came up and I saw a sheet. It was blood coming down from the arms of Jesus, and peace just came over me. I didn't tell anyone except Jan. I went up to Jan and said, I've just seen Jesus. She said, that's good, Bruce, and she kept cutting.
You've got some good stories, let me tell you.
We're in North Korea. This was more the small voice of God. Cambodia, I actually believe I heard the audible voice of God.
In your 50s, to leave your job, to leave home, that is an incredible amount of faith.
Every country we've been to, God has had something in Bruce's heart that was not Christ-like, and he wanted to change me. Each person, what God will ask you to do is probably different to other people, but are you willing to get out of the boat on the water when something he's asked you to do is not easy to do?
Bruce, it's good to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for being here. It's great to have you as special guest on the podcast with Pastor Jez and I, and I just want to introduce you for everyone who doesn't know who you are. I'm sure everyone knows who you are.
Probably not.
You know so many people.
That's true.
Because you love catching up with coffees for people, and you have like 15 coffees a day because you just love coffee and you love people, and I can connect with that. So I can relate with that.
I can't.
You can't?
I'll have a cup of tea. I have a cup of tea when I hang out with you. I don't do coffee.
No, you have a tea?
Yeah, tea.
Oh, fair enough. Tea drinker.
Or a hot chocolate.
Okay. Hot chocolate's pretty good. But it's great to have you on the podcast today, Bruce. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to invite you onto the podcast because I just think you have lived a life walking with Jesus, and you are living a life walking with Jesus that is, I feel, is so encouraging and inspiring. The faith, the steps that you've had out of faith, walking with the Lord, endurance, walking with the Lord for such a long time. The love for God that you have is so evident, and the love for people. You're still on mission, and I just think that inspires me to see you on mission, discipling people, loving people, and I want to be like that as I get older, you know. And I wanted to get you onto the podcast today because I just think you sharing the stuff that's on your heart, hearing about your life journey and things will just inspire and encourage people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the wisdom that you bring. I think we have a generation that has information at their fingertips. We're just talking about Googling stuff. You know, I'm using AI, I'm using Google. Like, we have a generation with information galore, but they don't have wisdom. They can't get that from the web, and we can only get wisdom from people who have lived a life longer and beyond ours, and experienced life beyond ours. And I just think it's going to be really encouraging hearing from you today. And to start with, I thought, and we just want to ask you questions and hear from you, and we want to not do too much talking. But would you like to introduce yourself and share a little bit about yourself to people? You know, maybe it's just to get a little insight of who you are, maybe where you grew up, or what you did as a job throughout life and stuff like that. That might be really cool just to start the podcast.
Well, to start with, everything you've just said is summed up in obeying Jesus. To love God is to obey him, and that's what I had to learn in the early stages. I wanted to love God, but I didn't know how to. And then I read that to love God is to obey him. So what I do is a joy, and I meet so many beautiful people. I've made so many friends because I'm trying to be obedient. Am I obedient all the time? No, I'm not. Occasionally I blow it. About me, brought up in a little place called Jurai outside Tamworth on a farm. Spent my really enjoyable years in a family that loved me and had most of our relatives lived in that village. I used to call everyone uncle and aunt, and I found out later they were. we were all interrelated, intermarried, etc. But then sort of went to Tamworth for school and to Teachers College at Armidale. Then at Teachers College met my beautiful wife Jan, fell in love with her, and we were married 3 years later. It was a fairly long courtship. But the time I spent at Teachers College was eye-opening to the world. I moved away from my father, who was a particularly beautiful Christian, and I got into the world.
So were you a believer from a young age, like in a family of?
Now, I believe there's a big difference between belief and faith. When you say, did I believe there was a God. I love Christmas, I love Easter, but I didn't know him.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I was in my early 20s that I actually realised I knew about him, I knew of him, but I didn't know him.
Okay.
And that's when the change took place. So at Armidale, I went to church a couple of times while I was there, but there were too many interesting things going on the sideline.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so I walked away from the Lord. And for quite a while, I came out teaching. I was still away from the Lord. I was playing in a band. And
What did you play?
You're playing in a band?
Bass guitar.
Woo!
Rock band?
Well, in those days we called it a rock band.
We should get you back on the worship team.
But I was never a good guitarist. Never a good guitarist. I could watch the chord finger of the playing the rhythm guitar, and I can tell what chord pattern I was in.
Yep.
So if I missed out, I'd look over at him and then I'd back into it again. But we're playing mainly in pubs in those days.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
and,
right.
But anyhow, when got out teaching, went to St Mary's in Sydney, taught there for a couple of years, then went to Coonabarabran because Jan and I were going to get married and taught at Coonabarabran. This was primary school. Decided I wanted to get into high school, so I did my degree externally through New England.
Okay.
And then when I graduated, I got Wagga High School. I believe it made me a much better teacher. I struggled.
Yeah, right.
You know, when you have kids stand up and tell you, you know what you can do.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Because these were the type that didn't want to be at school but had to be at school at a certain age. And so, it really tested me the first few years, but then I got into social science, which I wanted. Social science head teacher at Junee, then head teacher at Belmont High School. And that's where the deputy was taking me to look around my new school. The ocean's there, Lake Macquarie's there. I remember quite clearly saying to the deputy, I'm going to retire here. God gave me 3 years and said, pack your bags, you're off to the mission field.
So you started missions.
I took leave for the first year, went across there, then came back. And when we got back, God said, that's all or nothing. So I had to write a letter to the department and say, I'm quitting. But that's when the faith walk started, because how are we going to survive? No job. Jan was teaching at Glendon Special School, but we both had to quit our jobs. And so that's...
How old were you at that point, like Belmont High School teaching? And
my first year in the mission field, I turned 50.
50?
Yeah, so 3 years at Belmont High School and then to the mission field.
Wow.
So it was 49 when I first went over.
Can I ask you a question, Bruce? Like, do you think, what was the catalyst that took you from, so I know you mentioned, God told you to go on to the mission field for that first year and then you came back and resigned, but what was the catalyst do you think that took you from being a believer to somebody that would follow God's leading, and actually, how did you shift from that space to true faith?
Yeah, good question. This happened in Wagga. We're in the Presbyterian church and I'd been asked to be an elder, and I knew that'd go well on my CV looking for promotion. Yeah. So I took the job. And the reason I went to church was because Jan was taking the kids to Sunday school and they'd have a Christmas pageant. So they'd say, Dad, come along. I was studying externally at this stage, so Sunday's my study day. And they'd say, come along and watch. So I'd go along and watch. And then some smart Alex said, Bruce, you're a teacher. We need a Sunday school teacher. Come on, I teach 5 days a week. I want a weekend off. But he persisted, and so eventually I started to teach Sunday school. But what I hadn't realised was I had to read this book.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden I started to read the book, but it was still reading it from the level of the 5 senses. I use an example here that this is still retro. I write a love letter to Jan, and I'm on my way to the post office and it falls out of my pocket. And you pick it up, Simo, and you say, oh, look, this guy loves his wife. He's taken her to the movies. But then he thinks, hang on, I'll seal it again and I'll post it. Well, when Jan gets it, wow, Bruce loves me. He's going to take me to the movies. Now, what was the difference? Why was there a different response between Simo and Jan? She knows the author. To you, they're just words on paper. And this is how I was reading my Bible. 1 chapter a day, so I was a good elder in the Presbyterian church. but it meant very little to me. But then I met a man called John Anderson who said, Bruce, read it as God's love letter to you. Then all of a sudden I couldn't put it down because as I'm reading it, I'm feeling God's love coming from the words. All of a sudden it became living word. The emotions of God were sort of coming through to me. It was like Jan reading the letter. She knew the author and she knew they were Bruce's words. And as she read it, you could feel the love from Bruce, even though it was just a letter, coming out of those words to her. And so this was where I changed. This man, John Anderson, was the one.
Who's John Anderson? Was he?
He was a missionary in Africa. Then they retired him from the mission field, so he came back to Sydney. And we had a period of 3 years where we didn't have a pastor, and we were going to call one, but John came as what we call supply, and he had nothing. He asked for nothing, but he had everything I wanted. And I thought all the guys in the eldership were really good Christians.
Yeah.
But when I looked at him, there was something totally different.
Yeah, wow.
He had everything I wanted. And so he used to do funerals, and I'd tell him after a funeral, come round, because the funerals were normally afternoon. He'd come round because he was flagged out, and I'd offer him coffee and I'd just ply him
with questions.
So many questions.
With questions. They went back to Sydney and we were due to go and visit them. But about a week before we were to go, I got word that my father was dying in Tamworth. He had Parkinson's. So I had to ring John and Sally and say, look, we won't come down. We'll organise another weekend when I get back. So I went to Tamworth, stayed with Mum. Dad died a week later. But then I stayed with her another couple of weeks just to settle things down because she didn't know what to do about the estate. We had to see the solicitors and so on. And so when I got back to Wagga, I rang and Sally answered the phone and she said, Bruce, while you're away, John passed away. But she said, I want to tell you this. They rang me from the hospital and said, John's in a coma. We think this will be his last day on this earth. Would you like to come in? So she said she went in and here was John sitting up in bed and said, Sally, I had a visitor today. And she said, who was that? He said, Jesus came and visited me this morning.
Wow.
2 hours later, he was dead.
Wow.
This was this man that impacted me and changed my life.
And
that's pretty incredible. Hey, I think having those people in your life is part of the discipleship journey, right? It's part of, you need community, you need people who are able to speak into the way that you live your life and to help bring encouragement and truth, but to propel you on your journey.
Yep.
And you, Bruce, are like such a prime example of somebody who has been discipled by this man.
Discipled by beautiful people.
That's right. And now you're doing the same thing.
Discipled by beautiful people.
But you're also doing that for so many people.
Yeah, but that's our calling. Go and make disciples.
Yeah.
So it's just being obedient to the calling that God has given us.
And 24 is, you counted this guy that really shifted your walk with Jesus.
Oh, yes. Totally transformed it.
And it sounds like this is in your walk with the Lord. Like, do you feel like, it sounds like this is one of the most pivotal moments of your walk with the Lord. You went from, maybe you knew, do you feel like you knew the Lord before that, or you just come into a new level of knowing?
I was seeking, really seeking. As soon as I met this man, I saw something I wanted. And he was a man that changed my prayer life, because I remember one of the elders used to go with John to the entrance at the end of the service, and as people come out, we'd shake hands with them and a little bit of chit-chat. And anyhow, I was on with John this day, and he said, Bruce, look, there's no one coming yet. Would you just pray for me to get a car? And I looked at him. I never prayed for a car. By the way, we prayed for peanut butter in North Korea and got it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But praying for
You've
a car.
got some good stories, let me tell you.
I prayed for a car with John.
Yeah.
Thinking this is going to be good. But anyhow, 2 weeks later, I'm back there again with John at the door, and a fellow called Arthur Galloway, who owned the second-hand car yard in Wagga, came by and he said, John, you better come down and pick out a car. You might need one.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, prayer started to be real to me.
Okay.
Before, prayer was just, I've got to pray because I'm a Christian.
You're a good Christian. Yeah.
So
prayer shifted. Your communication with God started to shift.
I started to shift big time.
What do you think, if you could share with someone maybe that if we call it pre-Bruce and now Bruce, I don't know if we do that.
Yeah.
But say if someone, might feel listening to the podcast right now and they feel similar to pre-Bruce, like, oh, I'm doing the activity that a Christian should do. I'm meant to be reading my Bible, so I'm doing my devotions. And, maybe they feel like, oh, there's this, they don't know the Lord, or there's that breakthrough that you encountered.
Yep.
What do you think, what would you say is the linchpin?
Yeah, great question.
To that breakthrough?
Find someone who you think has more than you've got in your Christian walk.
Yeah.
And go and don't let them get away. Talk to them, question them, organise a time to be with them, because I'm sure they'll take that time. When they've got time, they'll fit you in. So to me, it was the people I walked with at that particular time, a fellow called John Van Every, who was an elder in the church. He was a Freemason at that stage. I realised later that the Freemasons, all of the elders except two of us were Freemasons.
Yeah, right.
And then the pastor we had before John Anderson came, he was also a Freemason. That's why he got the job. I didn't think he was a better one that we'd interviewed.
Wow.
And I didn't find out till later. But John and I became very close friends, and I challenged the minister and John because I'd got a book from Koorong Bookshop, or the Christian Bookshop, and it told me what Freemason was about. I had no idea to start with. And so I challenged them. We're in the vestry one night before an evening service. We would meet there to pray. And I just said, look, I don't think you guys are on the right track here. And sadly, the pastor ended up in a mental institution in Junee.
Oh.
It was really sad. He and his wife split up. But John burnt his regalia, the little apron, and he burnt the lot.
Oh, wow.
He lost a few friends, but he's a great brother now. Still alive.
It's what you were talking about before. It's obeying Jesus above all other. That's it.
Yeah.
It's knowing the truth and then allowing the truth to shape who you are and put off the old things, put off the things that you used to do in order to follow him. And what were some of the things that you had to put off as a newish believer, like a real faith walker? What were some of the things that you had to put off?
Well, I lost some good friends because they said, Bruce, you're boring. You used to be fun.
Oh, right.
And that was mainly because we used to go drinking.
Right.
And get a skinful. In those days, you just had to walk the straight line if the policeman pulled you up. But I suppose the things that I lost didn't matter because it was the things that I gained.
Yeah, beautiful.
There was so much that I had gained, particularly peace. Faith was the biggest step that I found was the hardest step I had to make in the mission field. I'd read about Peter getting out of the boat onto the water. And I remember thinking, I could never do that. You can't do that. But I went back through and I looked at, why did Peter get out of the boat on the water? Come on, you've got a bit of common sense there, Peter. You're a fisherman. You know you can't stand on water. But then I realised he saw Jesus turn water into wine. Then he saw Jesus heal a paralytic. Then he saw Jesus raise a dead girl and heal a sick woman. Then he saw Jesus feed 5,000. Now, each one of those steps was a faith builder.
Yeah, great.
We don't have blind faith. I've been accused of having blind faith. You Christians, someone says something, you believe it, pie in the sky. But no, my faith is built on every time something's happened, like praying for a car and having that car. But if you can't do it, then it's God who has to do it. And you look back and you say, wow, God did that. So for Jan and I, it was all these, I was talking to you about the Bible study. I was asked, Bruce, how did the Holy Spirit help you and Jan on your mission work? And as we went through, you could feel the faith just building as we were thinking back about all the things that had happened in our walk with the Lord. And we haven't got blind faith. It's built on fact. What happened beforehand that couldn't have been anything but God intervening. And some things I normally don't share because I don't want people to think I'm not like Bruce Kay, I can't get there. I was in Wagga in the house a Saturday, a rainy day. The kids were in the lounge room watching TV and playing games. Jan was in the kitchen preparing the evening meal. And I remember I was standing out near the water heater. I don't know why I brought the water heater up. That's where I was standing. I know exactly the place. And all of a sudden, this bright light appeared in front of me in the shape of a man.
Oh, wow.
Now, I can't tell you what the face looked like. I have no idea, but I didn't want to move. All of a sudden, I could feel this love just coming on me. Now, I was still smoking at that stage, but not the bad stuff. I was still having an occasional drink, but I was definitely not under the influence of any drug whatsoever.
Yeah.
There was a busy road. We were on Lake Albert Road, just below our house. Normally, a fair bit of traffic noise, didn't hear a thing.
Wow.
I don't know how long I was there for, but I didn't want to move because I didn't want it to go. Now, but then the arms came up and I saw a sheet. It was blood coming down from the arms of Jesus.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I was surrounded by a curtain of blood.
Wow.
And peace just came over me. Now, I didn't tell anyone except Jan. I went up to Jan and said, I've just seen Jesus. She said, that's good, Bruce, and she kept cutting. She could not relate to what I had experienced.
Yeah, yeah.
And because it was in the middle of the day, it was towards the afternoon, it was so real to me.
Wow.
Then all of a sudden, the love of God, every time I read about that, now there's an earthly love, but it has conditions.
Yeah.
I will love you if you do this for me. That's the earthly love. But this was love that poured into me, and there was no condition on it. It just kept coming.
Yeah, as you are.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I don't want people to base their faith on, I've got to have a vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want people to base their faith on, I've got to see a miracle.
Yeah.
No, your faith is based on a person, and that's Jesus. And get to know him by reading his word.
What would you say to someone in that's just hungry to want to know him more?
Yeah. Okay, your mum rings you up and you answer the phone and she says, hello, Simeon, and you say, hi, Mum. She didn't tell you who was on the other end of the phone. Why did you know her voice? It's because from the womb to the arms to the cradle, Mum's voice has just been there all the time with you. And so to get to know God, you've got to spend time with him. And then you'll have that intimate relationship with him. If you don't talk to God, if you don't listen to him through his word or through a sermon or through a friend, you'll never really get to know him. You've got to have that intimate relationship with him. And that means seeking him, open the door and he'll come in. But he's seeking for you now. He's knocking on the door.
He's knocking on the door.
Don't hold him out. Open the door. Have the faith to say, God, I want you to come into my life.
So you're 50 years old. Jesus speaks to you about leaving to go to the mission field, and you went to multiple different countries. But to leave, you in your 50s, to leave your job, to leave home, that is an incredible amount of faith that, I think, like you were saying, a lot of people in their 50s, like we're in the comfort zone and we're eyeing off retirement with our super and a couple of investment properties, all this kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that God's calling everyone to up their whole life and go to a different country necessarily, but how would you encourage someone to pursue a life of faith that in any stage of their life, really, how would you encourage them?
Well, I think Peter comes to mind here. We're talking about Peter's faith steps. So when Jesus said to him, come, Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water.
When he first called him? Oh, no. Yeah.
On the water, yeah.
But he wouldn't have done that if he hadn't seen all these miracles beforehand, I don't believe. They all helped to cement him to the point where he was now. And I think Jesus knew that. And he said, come, Peter. Now, probably the other 11 disciples are taking wages in the back of the boat. I bet he doesn't make it. I bet he does make it. But those 11 could talk about seeing a miracle. Not experiencing one. Only one could talk about experiencing a miracle.
Yeah.
Now, I'd read books like God's Smuggler by Brother Andrew, Keith Green, Melody Green writing, No Compromise, books like that. So I'd read about a lot of miracles happening, but I'd never got out of the boat. So it was that first getting out of the boat onto the water, which was the big one, and that was going to Cambodia.
Yeah, okay. So Cambodia was first.
Yeah, India first. We went to India with YWAM on a short outreach trip.
Yep.
And that was more of an exciting adventure for me. I was more, wow, this is fun. So, yeah, I was a missionary off to India. And a lot of it was pride. A lot of it was, this is all about Bruce.
Okay.
And so God, every country we've been to, God has had something in Bruce's heart that was not Christ-like.
Yeah.
And he wanted to change me. And that's where North Korea came in. In North Korea, God had seen my heart about we're self-supporting missionaries. We don't need anyone.
Okay.
And that's where in the hotel over 10 nights, God worked on one of my means of keeping us on the mission field. Oh, when I go back to Newcastle, I'll get a job in the University of Newcastle again in the language centre, earn some more money and come back. And God said, no, you want to walk as Jesus did in John. Walk as Jesus did. Jesus never depended upon his work to keep him on the mission field.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
No more paid work. When we came back, I rang Seamus Fagan, the boss at the language centre, and said, look, we worked right through the school holidays, and a lot of the people there were women working on the staff, and they had kids, and they were missing out on the holidays with their kids. So I just said to Seamus, look, I'll come in and do volunteer work and let the women go and have time with their kids, because we're here sitting back here waiting to go back overseas. And anyhow, Seamus said, leave it with me, but the union said, no, you'll be taking someone's job. So I was not allowed to do the volunteer work. So that was one. We had a house at Bundabar we bought for missionaries.
Okay.
And no missionary had come when we were going overseas. And so there was a young couple up there who had a child, and they liked being in that area. Their child was going to school. Bundabar is just up near Tea Gardens, Hawk's Nest.
Oh, okay.
Between there and the highway.
Yeah, right.
And anyhow, they came to us and said, look, we hear your place is empty. Can we rent it? We'd like to stay here. So we said, yeah, that's fine. But back in North Korea, I'm thinking we can use the money, rental money, to keep us the mission field. God said, no, that house was never bought for you. That house was bought for missionaries. You're not using it for missionaries. Give it away. And he gave us the name of the people to give it to.
Wow.
Whoa.
So that's the hardest thing I've had to do was try and talk to an accountant and a solicitor about giving a house away.
Yeah, wow.
They thought, what's going on here?
Yeah.
What's going on here? Yeah.
So you gave a house away?
Yeah, so we gave a house away.
How amazing.
But
I feel really challenged.
But and then, when you go, but next night when I go back to Victory, I'll talk to Keith and see for the church will support us. He said, no, Jesus never depended upon the church to keep him doing the work that I've called him to do. You're not allowed to accept anything from Victory. That's why we didn't accept things from Victory.
How did you know that this was the voice of God? You know,
It's a great question.
This was very clear. We're in North Korea, and North Korea, there's nothing to do at night time if you're awake except get up and pray. And this was more the small voice of God. Yeah. Cambodia, I actually believe I heard the audible voice of God.
Wow! But
here in North Korea, it was a small voice of God, But I went through, there were 10 things. When you're not allowed to check your bank account to see how much money you've got in it. Not on.
No.
So all of these things were taken away. And Jan knew something was happening, and I said, look, I'll wait till I get it all and I'll tell you. So I sat her down and told her what God had said to us, and she said, I can't do it.
Oh, wow.
So I left it with her for a few days. Then she came back and said, let's talk again. And she said, let's do it. Now, we had about 7 years where we had no source of income, and we not only survived on the mission field, we thrived on the mission field.
Wow.
Now, question, where does Bruce live now? Redhead. Hasn't had an income for years.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing. God is good.
Yeah.
Now, God's not asking you to do what Bruce and Jan Kay did. God looked at my heart and saw I was proud of being self-supporting. He had to break that because pride's not part of his kingdom, and I was walking in pride.
Yeah, wow.
So that was something in my heart he had to break. So he looks at your hearts and says, Jez, this is what I want to take out of your heart and put something back that makes you more like Christ. Simeon, the same for you. So it comes back to each person, what God will ask you to do is probably different to other people. But are you willing to get out of the boat on the water when something he's asked you to do is not easy to do?
To kind of round out this episode, how would you, you're talking about how it was the small, still voice of God that you obeyed, and it was the constant stepping up of obeying and seeing God move that built your faith. How would you describe? I think there's a lot of people that kind of, and this is just to finish off this episode. A lot of people probably go, "Oh, I love the Lord, I follow the Lord, but like I don't feel like I hear that small voice." Like how would you describe, or how would you help someone that might struggle with, hearing that small voice of God so that they can obey it?
Yeah, asking questions. My favourite question when I'm meeting someone, what's God talking to you about?
Yes.
And some people get a little bit, what are you talking about? But, God speaks to us through his word. Are you reading your Bible? Have you heard a good message lately, or someone prophesied over you? So, but for me, asking questions of God, which means I don't have the answer. Otherwise, I wouldn't ask him the question. So when I ask him the question, and I'm up in the still small hours of the morning, which is when I mostly get up and pray, if I get an answer to my question, that's not from Bruce, because I didn't have an answer.
That's a good point.
That's from God.
Yeah.
And quite often I get up and got to close the door, turn the light off so I don't wake Jan up, and flick back through and find the passage that God's been referring me back to, and then I read around that passage, and all of a sudden I've got peace about that answer. So to me, God mainly speaks to me through his love letter to me, which is his word. But often when I hear you guys preaching, there's something that'll come up and I think, hang on, that's an answer to that question I've been talking to God about.
Yeah.
And so every time you preach, if God is working through you, someone in the congregation is going to walk out of that place with a definite answer to a question they had. Often, I like when I meet people for coffee, I get answers to questions there. It's a two-way thing. It's not just me. It's other people telling me what God's talking to them about. I asked one fellow the other day, what's God talking about? He said, smelling the flowers. He said, God's telling me I'm working so hard I haven't got time to talk to him.
Yeah.
So he wants me to stop. Look at the flower, smell the flowers, praise God for the flowers.
Yeah.
And, this to me was just a simple thing that he said. And as I said to you, what's God talking to me about at the moment? It's getting back to my first love, smelling the flowers, praising God. So when he said that, I immediately thought, there's part of the solution to my problem, getting back to my first love. So all the time I'm learning, just by talking to other people. And
I guess that requires you to be open, to have, to have the ears of your heart open.
To never feel like you have to have all the answers, or that there's not somebody else who's going to be a crucial part of your journey in discipleship, which is where it comes right back to the beginning again of that importance of community and being in relationship and being inquisitive and curious about other people, looking outward and trusting that God's got that journey for you. And I think I love your story, Bruce, and I think it's just so inspiring. And, I'm sure you've told it thousands of times to lots of different people, and every time somebody will get something different. But even today, sitting here, I'm thinking, oh gosh, God, that's an answer to a question that I've got. That's actually an answer to a question that I've got.
Yeah.
But I just want to thank you for just sharing. I just believe that people, I could sit here for hours.
I'm
just
so impacted.
Chat and talk about God and scripture. And I believe that people, just by experiencing your story, your life, they're just going to be either encouraged or
inspired,
challenged and inspired. And I kind of think about in the scriptures where, the men on the road to Emmaus, and how afterwards they said, "Oh, did not our hearts burn within us?" And I feel like when I hang out with you, Bruce, because you just know the Lord and love the Lord, I go away with a fresher fire, and I just believe that people are gonna, after listening to this episode, it's gonna stoke something in them.
Yeah, I love that.
And I just believe it's gonna do something new for people. We'll see you in the next episode.
Okay.